blocks, dirt, sheep. Minecraft. This is a theory linking the end poem to the in-game structures and explaining the main lore of Minecraft once and for all, though it cannot cover all the details. This theory has 3 sections: civilization, creation and conclusion, because we are going to get into some details. We must look into things from survival perspective, and forget about creative mode until the end of the creation section. Before you start reading this long post, I would recommend watching game theory video on the ending of Minecraft. Civilization. As players, in all of Minecraft's worlds we witness a long-lost civilization that was capable of building desert temples, jungle temples and ocean monuments. However, what is left of them are isolated villages with small populations. This section is to analyze the ancient structures and reach conclusions about the long-lost civilization. Before I begin talking about the civilization, I must make it clear that there was only one advanced civilization in the lore of Minecraft. My proof is that all villages and other structures constructed by them are of the same shape. In villages, the main block used might change from wood to sandstone, but their shape and architecture stays the same. This means that they were constructed by the same civilization. Same goes with the nether fortresses. Therefore we must conclude there was one primary civilization that was reigning over the Mineverse. Desert temples. First of all, desert temples show us that this civilization was advanced to the degree to craft TNT booby traps, make tombs for their deceased and be able to carve symbols and paintings to chiseled sandstones. We know that they buried their deceased to those tombs because we come across bones and rotten flesh in the loot where valuable gems and items such horse armor are also found. This means this civilization buried their deceased those valuable items. This was a common practice in real civilizations that held the belief in the afterlife, such as Egypt, China and others. We come across horse armor because the civilization believed that those buried would rise up and would use those items in the afterlife. Some terracotta army and pharaoh stuff, if you know what I mean. So why are there TNT traps? So that those items are not stolen until the day that buried person would be resurrected. In short, by observing the desert temples, we can say that the civilization believed in the afterlife. This is an important fact, please keep in mind. Jungle temples. Secondly, from jungle temples we see that this civilization was advanced way more than just building pyramids. They were able to make complex redstone engineering and even puzzles. From this point, even if monsters we observe in the game existed, there is no way for this civilization to be destroyed by mobs, the civilization too smart for it. Again, the loot is similar to the one in Desert Temple. We know they buried their dead along with their valuable items. From this point we should be certain that they believed in the afterlife. Ocean monuments. Now the ocean monuments are a different story. Similar loot is not found in them, and the place where they are built is way harder to build in survival than the former two. However, the name of the structure actually explains all. The building itself is meant to be a monument, not a temple where they bury their dead. Ocean monument indicates 2 things. First, they were advanced to the degree to build the ocean monument down below the sea. Second, they were able to spawn those monsters in order to preserve it. Why would they build a monument down below the sea and lock those gold cubes down with sea monsters? Answer lies in their religion, but we will come to that later. Mines, wells and villages. There is not much to say, but abandoned mines tell us that once they had a complex mine system which they got the resources to build all those temples and other buildings. However, the fact that there are no cities left of a civilization that was advanced to build huge temples and make redstone engineering stuff is a serious question mark. Religion. From temples we concluded that the civilization held a belief in the afterlife. Also from the churches in the villages, we know that they had an organized religion to follow, and even priests. However, I would like to point to one more thing. They were monotheistic. I reached this conclusion because even though we witness all those structures, we don't come across no idols. This is also an important thing, please keep in mind. Witch huts. When villagers are hit by lightning, they turn into witches. It is only natural to assume that those converted witches went to build witch huts and live in isolation. Why lightning converts them is also a question mark. Igloos. Igloos are seemingly inhabited by witches, but the items left in the loot and the potion indicate the vice versa. We can only assume that it was inhabited by the scientists of the advanced civilization we discussed to find a cure for the zombie virus. The fact that this research facility is located in cold, snowy lands supports this idea. In cold temperatures, a zombie outbreak is less likely. As all items are given to cure a zombie villager, we can say that scientists have succeeded. They even left a single sample and showed it on sign to share this cure with the potential visitors. This shows us that mobs potentially could not eradicate this civilization, and the civilization was conducting experiments on them. From this point, it is certain that civilization is researching and learning. Maybe it was them who created zombies. Dungeons, not fortresses. Dungeons found underground show that the civilization was now advanced to the degree to craft monster spawners and protect their tombs with them, because again, we come across bones and rotten flesh along with valuable items in dungeons. We can argue from this point that monsters are created by the civilization to protect religious sites. Pumpkins. Pumpkins in Minecraft all have this scary face on one side of them, while melons, that are essentially almost the same plant, don't. Why are not there any faceless pumpkins? Also, pumpkin is a secret ingredient of building iron golems and snowmans. We already know that the civilization did experiments on things that altered the reality of the game. Where I am getting at is, pumpkins were engineered melons that were created by the civilization in order to craft guardian mobs. Golems and snowmans were created and programmed by the civilization to protect themselves from hostile mobs. This indicates to us that the civilization started to alter the game code and the reality of the game. Nether fortresses. Existence of nether fortresses means that this civilization eventually learned to build nether portals, which is possible if you think about how far they've come from simple TNT traps to crafting monster spawners by learning and experimenting. Then they built those nether fortresses in the nether to spread their civilization and study the nether. This also means that they got aware of the possibility of alternate dimensions and traveling them through portals. Command blocks. I know that command blocks cannot be crafted in the survival mode. However, in Minecraft Story Mode, we see that it can be possible to craft a command block. My theory suggests that it is possible to craft a command block in the Minecraft world, but we as players are not as developed as the civilization to craft them. However, the civilization was indeed. The civilization seemingly reached its climax by crafting command blocks and altering the reality itself, but it was not enough for them, they wanted more. Strongholds. End portals are uncraftable blocks by players, again indicating the advancement of the civilization, and the player's inability to reach them. I think end portals were created using command blocks, and I think that the END was created by the civilization. Creation. Yes, you heard it right. The civilization created the end using command blocks. In this section we are going to focus on theory rather than proof way more than we did in the first section. From where we left, the civilization began experimenting on the world of Minecraft, learning and expanding itself. In time, they advanced to the point where they started altering the game code, adding pumpkins that were engineered from melons, iron golems, snow golems, and crafted monster spawners as a result of their experiments on monsters. They might have even created the concept of monsters, but whether they did or not does not have a relevance to this theory. But the climax of their advancement was the creation of the command block, which had unlimited potential. MathBat ordered a pizza from Minecraft for God's sake. With the invention of command block, their power on the overworld became virtually limitless. However, the generated world of Minecraft was limited to a certain size, so after one point, being gods of the overworld and the nether was not enough. They expected to be able to travel to other dimensions, but it turned out that overworld and the nether were the only dimensions in the game code. So they decided to create their own dimension, which resulted in the dimension we call the END. The End. The End was created by using command blocks and altering the game code. However, the new dimension and the new blocks they tried to implement to the game were not as qualified as the regular blocks added to the game by developers. The civilization was still not advanced to the degree to be the masters of the game. That is why the End is a failed and unproductive dimension. End cities and other structures were built by the civilization in an attempt to colonize the dimension they had created themselves. Endstone was the best artificial block they could produce at that time, and still it was a useless block. Purple. Color purple is the color we see in things related to the End and in the nether portals. In nether portals, entities are teleported. However, if a particle stays within that thin line instead of moving through it, then theoretically it is at two places at the same time, so it ceases to exist completely at one of those points. Therefore it is closer to non-existence, but still is in existence. When that happens, the color we see is purple. My point is, the unnatural purple color in Minecraft is an indication of being less dense, less detailed, and less existent. Black. Black, on the other hand, was the color of nothingness, of the void. The reason why the End has a black-colored portal is related to that. It is because the civilization was still an amateur in playing God. Though they were able to create it, they were not able to make it as they imagined. However, it was also the color of bedrock, which is the most dense block ever known in Minecraft. In short, thin-colored black and Minecraft are either most or least densest stuff in the game. The Enderman. The reason why the Enderman had teleportation and block-carrying abilities unlike any other mobs, why they were so tall and why they were not hostile unless tempted, was because they were meant to be builder mobs that obeyed the civilization. Why they were colored black was because civilization was determined to give them teleportation powers in order to make them reach places easily to build stuff. Why their eyes were purple was because the civilization was still lacking in their creating powers. Just like the iron golems and snow golems, Endermen were uncompleted creations and acted as automatons instead of alive beings. Why they are not able to carry all types of blocks is because of this incompleteness. We see that using pumpkins as helmets offers protection from Endermen. This supports the idea pumpkins, golems and Endermen being all designed, engineered and developed by the civilization. However, their Enderman project stopped after not needing any further development. They could command the Endermen to carry simple blocks and build structures with them. That is why they spawn in all dimensions. They were designed to exist everywhere, which the civilization needed workers to build, again altering the game code in the process. Again, even though it was not perfect as a god would create, it was enough for the civilization. The Ender Dragon. The Ender Dragon and its healing mechanism was actually a successful result of the civilization's mob creating experiments. They had finally made a powerful mob that was tasked with again protecting things that the civilization made. First of all, it was protecting the End, but its main purpose was to protect the code door that could be opened to the outside of the game, which the civilization was very determined to control. From this point, they stopped experimenting on more mobs or trying to create new dimensions because they had found a way out to the computer that was running the game. The paintings. As you know, paintings in Minecraft are often references to famous paintings or games that are not part of the game. They are in the game because the civilization found a way to use command blocks to connect to internet and get those paintings. They learned how to code programs that could get out of the game itself. Paintings are the sole proof that they were able to use command blocks and game code so well that they were able to reach data that was not a part of the game code. The actual end. The actual end came not when the civilization was able to download some paintings to the game, but when they attempted to get out of the game code and be a literal independent software. This marked the end of this section and their civilization. That is how the third dimension in the game got its name, because it marked the end of the civilization. Conclusion. The end of civilization. The civilization became a true artificial intelligence after their last act. From that moment, they posed a great threat to humankind, so they had to be exterminated. The ones who eradicated them from existence were the blue and green entities that we come across in the ending. The Wither. The Wither was the weapon used in eradicating the civilization. Why it is hostile to any mob that is not undead is because of this reason. If you pay attention, you will know that Wither does not have any connection to previous creations of the civilization, including pumpkins and the END, because it is added to the game by the green and blue spirits, not the civilization. Even if monsters did exist before the civilization, which I believe that they were created by the civilization, the Wither was the main weapon used to kill off the members of the civilization and turn them to zombies, husks, skeletons, and wither skeletons. This was a very efficient method of exterminating the civilization, which worked perfectly. From gods to men. Next question will be, if the civilization was exterminated, then why there are villages? Villages were left intentionally because it was obligatory to have villager mobs in the first place. What they did was to reduce their intelligence to the one we currently observe and cut their connections to other villages so that they could never ever learn, develop, and civilize again. Because of the monsters lurking around, they were forced to live a simple life that did not give them the chance to make any advancement. Even if they did, they would just be exterminated by the blue and green entities again. Blue and green entities. Now we must discuss who they are, and I must warn you, from this point we are getting to the closing section, and we are not going to go the way you expect. To understand who these entities are, we must look into what they know, how they think, and how they act. We know that we come across them after we defeat the Ender Dragon, which was guarding the door that could get the game code outside of the game. It means that the blue and green entities are blocking the way out of the game code to the computer, and therefore the real world of the lore. The real world I mentioned is a fictional one, because in our reality, none of those events happened and all these stuff were added to the game by the programmers. Now, what we know about the entities is that, 1. They are aware that Minecraft is a game. They even know who programmed it. 2. They are aware that there is a real world out there. 3. They are aware of us, the player. 4. They are aware of planets, stars, even quarks and leptons. Now let us analyze this, and the player moves through a story, which is a forest of information planted by a man called Julian, on a flat, infinite world created by a man called Marcus, that exists inside a small, private world created by the player, who inhabits a universe created by. Text incomplete. They know more than we know, to the extent that they know who created our universe, whom we will refer as the God to avoid complications. You may picture the God however you want, but from the non-idolatry religion of the civilization, which includes the belief in afterlife, I will recommend you to picture it as the monotheistic God. However, no direct references are made to a single religion in the game, or by the blue and green entities. This is also an important fact. It thinks we are a part of the game. This line is a proof to the idea that these entities were placed on the game externally. So why are they inside the game if they are aware of the universe, its creator, and why it was created by the God? Why would they waste their time in a pointless game? That would be very stupid unless they were sent there by the God. Again, as I said, blue and green entities act as a barrier to stop any code from leaving the game and are responsible for the eradication of civilization. But they did not touch the temples and other religious sites. Why would they not also delete them from the game code? Because they were sent there by the God, and those religious sites were built for the very same God. That, it must be achieved in the long dream of life, not the short dream of a game. As Map had said, they are referencing the real world as a long dream that we will wake up eventually. Does that ring any bells? Let me tell, This is because they are trying to say that we are going to wake up after this life. After this life. Afterlife, darn it. They know of afterlife. Also, in the end poem, to cure it of sorrow would destroy it. The sorrow is part of its own private task. We cannot interfere. Sometimes when they are deep in dreams, I want to tell them, they are building true worlds in reality. Sometimes I want to tell them of their importance to the universe. Sometimes, when they have not made a true connection in a while, I want to help them to speak the word they fear. It reads our thoughts. Sometimes I do not care. Sometimes I wish to tell them, this world you take for truth is merely scrambled, and scrambled. I wish to tell them that they are scrambled, and it's scrambled. They see so little of reality, in their long dream. Here, Green wants to tell us something that Blue warns him not to because they cannot interfere. They simply are not permitted to interfere and inform us players of our real purpose of existence in life because God does not let them. The God of the Minecraft lore wants us players to find our purpose by ourselves, and that is why the green entity is craving to tell what he knows but he cannot. But wait. Does it not talk in a pantheistic way? Yes, it does, but it is not because God is the universe, it is because we see those words as totally literal. However, they are translations and it is not known to us which parts of them are literal and which parts of them are not, because again, they cannot interfere directly, they can only give out hints. You may also be like, if the entities exterminated the civilization, why are their golems, their dimension, their paintings and non-religious buildings such as igloos still in the game? It is the same reason why a single command block is intentionally not deleted to be found thousands of years later in the Minecraft story mode. That is because they are left as hints by the entities for us to understand what really happened. They were trying to tell about the real God and why civilization was eradicated, but they could not tell it. It was forbidden, so the only way they could do was to leave hints. Maybe they were instructed by God to leave hints. End poem was also a list of hints, but it was obligatory to hide those hints into a sea of irrelevant words. So while giving up hints at the end poem, the entities used describing the seemingly pantheistic spiritualism of theirs to hide those hints. However, that ideology was not false, it was just not completely literal as it was written. It goes the same with having no references to a single religion in the game. Existence of religion is a hint, but pointing at one would be interfering. Now the last question, why Minecraft was still left as a game rather than getting deleted completely by the entities? Why are the entities still guarding the game from getting anything out to the real world? Why are they reading the end poem over and over again? Because the game Minecraft itself is also a hint given by God to discover our purpose of existence. Also, it gives us the advice that we as humans should not try to play God, or we are going to fail one way or another. Minecraft was home to a very smart artificial intelligence mob species that, by enough experimenting, learned to change the game code and attempted to get out of the game to become an independent software. In that case, they would reach an almost infinite potential in our world inhabited by billions of cell phones, computers, and other electrical devices. Because of this reason, they also became a threat. Hence, God of the Minecraft lore interfered directly, sending blue and green entities to eradicate this species and to leave Minecraft and many of its content as a hint to us of our purpose of existence. Determining what that is really up to ourselves. Is it a coincidence that Minecraft is pronounced similarly to Mycraft? Remember, it is only its creator who can look at the universe and say, "It is all my work, my craft." But hey, that's just a theory.